In 1887, the United States Army commissioned Fort Sheridan on the shores of Lake Michigan in Illinois. And at the center of the base was this water tower, which fed into all of the barracks and the entire set of buildings providing water. And into World War I, this complex actually became a hospital. Soldiers that had been injured and needed to recuperate would come to this place to be mended and healed and put back together. And since then, this location's become a national historical park district to help us remember what the brave individuals did back then who served in this place over all of those years that it was in business. Monuments are important in that way, aren't they? They help us remember what was done. They help us remember what happened, and we learn from those things and we progress. But what's interesting is those things always stay in the past, but monuments help us remember the past. For a lot of Christians, that's how we view the cross, right? The cross is a monument of what happened, a reminder of what Jesus did for us. The problem, though, is that sometimes we allow what Jesus did to be just what Jesus did. And it stays in the past, and it only stands as a reminder instead of something that's still happening. We always forget to think about that 3 days later, he moved on from the cross and moved on from the tomb and is alive today. Jesus didn't stay in the past. He's a part of our present. And so while the cross reminds us of what he did, he hasn't stopped doing it. And just like every other historical marker, it stays fixated. But not Jesus. The cross did, but Jesus moved on and he walked out of the tomb. And the tomb is a reminder that Jesus is still doing. It's not just what Jesus did. It's not just what happened, it's what's happening. It makes me think about when all of his closest followers were gathered together, and after he'd come back to life, he appeared to them. And he invites them to touch him, and he asks for food, and he has this conversation with them, and they come to realize he's not just a story. He's not just something that happened. He's still in business. And what that moment did when Jesus walked again with all of his followers was give them courage for what he was calling them to do in the future, because they realized they weren't looking back. They didn't have to long for something that had happened. They could live in what he was doing today. And so those same followers that were scared and afraid and unsure came in contact with the real living Jesus again. And then they launched this movement we call the church that's lasted millennia. You see, they had hope for the future because Jesus didn't stay in the past. And while every monument stands as a good reminder, Jesus is the one that's alive and active today. So you and I can live with the promise and the hope for tomorrow that Jesus is with us. He wasn't just in our history somewhere, but he's in our present today. And you and I can boldly venture into whatever is next, because the cross, while huge, and we couldn't have what we have without it, is important. Jesus didn't stay there.